How are you, Anan?
I'm good, and you?
Well, it's evening again. Wow, the time is too fast, Anan.
It's too fast. But here it's afternoon now.
What time is it now in Malawi? You're in Malawi, right?
Yes, I'm in Malawi. Right now it's 5 minutes past 11
In the morning.
in the morning, yes.
Here is 7 o'clock in the evening, Australian Standard Time.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we're talking this morning, right? And now it's already evening.
It's already evening, yes.
Yeah, we're talking about your buyer wanting the gold to bring to the central bank. Can you explain to me why the buyer wants to buy gold in Conakry?
They say they want to buy the gold in Conakry
Yeah?
through the central bank due to the implications they're facing, buyers are facing in many countries in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a little fun in
Mm-hmm.
Conakry upon hearing that gold can be bought through the central bank, so they believe that buying the gold through the central bank
Mm-hmm.
would make it easier and would minimize the chances of getting scammed.
Mm-hmm. Can you ask your wife
Due to
to take your daughter out of our conversation? Can you ask your wife?
yes, please. Yes, please.
Ask your wife to take that child out. Okay. Go ahead, Anan. Go ahead.
Yes, are you there?
Yeah, I'm hearing Anan. Go ahead.
Yes. Now I was saying buyers. You know the situation that is in Africa. Buyers come to Africa, they lose money, they get scammed. So in Conakry, they're loving it because they've heard that buying gold in Conakry, you can buy through the central bank, all right? And
Yes.
you make payments right inside the central bank. That's what they've heard. I'm
No.
not pretty much sure about central bank about Conakry because it's not my playground.
Yeah.
But I know you are very much familiar with Conakry. That is
Well,
why I
most of the
came
buyer
to
doesn't
find out.
understand this business, Anan. Now, may I explain to you so that the world would know about Conakry's policy. Right. In Africa, there's so many deceitful people. Meaning to say the seller can deceive you or the buyer can deceive the seller, both vice versa. Mhm. Now I know that Africa has been tarnished by a foreigner. And I know that Africa has been tarnished by the local seller as well. Mhm. Why they want to offer cheap price? Because they wanted to sell it. That is business. Now going back to Conakry, when the buyer wants to buy gold in Conakry, I've been to Conakry 6 times. 6 times. The buyer, if the buyer wants to buy gold in Conakry, because Dubai and Conakry, there is an Emirate flight twice a week. So only one stop. So the buyer needs to introduce himself, who he is, and the buyer needs to send an intention to buy. Right. Attention to Wilhelmina because Wilhelmina is the one who will advise the buyer because I am the marketing consultant of the seller, Mali, Conakry, and Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Now, when the buyer places an order, he has to send his business registration, importation license, passport copy, and the proof of fund that he has available fund in his bank account, the value of 10 kilos. Right.
Yes.
So then we will respond to the buyer that yes, we will allocate your 10 kilos. Then the seller will issue the landing visa for the buyer to travel with Wilhelmina.
Yes.
So when he travel, the gold, the 10 kilos, would be reserved for the buyer to inspect in the office.
Yes.
So when he inspect, he likes it, then that's the time the gold will be brought to the central bank. So when the gold brought to the central bank, the gold cannot leave the central bank anymore. So the gold stays at the central bank while preparing the export documentation by the seller. Because the seller has to declare that he is going to export to your buyer. So the buyer has to transfer the payment bank to bank from the buyer's bank account to the seller's bank account. It would take 3 working days. Yeah. Sorry?
This happens while the gold is inside the central bank.
What happens if the gold is still in the central bank? The buyer cannot back out. So if the buyer back out, then the gold can be confiscated by the central bank.
Yes.
So that's the reason why the seller would not deal any buyer in Conakry unless the buyer can afford to pay. Because there's no way that the buyer can get the gold to bring the central bank. Central bank is an office to certify the seller that the buyer did pay the gold to the seller. Because the seller will issue the receipt of the buyer that the buyer paid the gold. So then the central bank can give the certificate of clearance. The buyer cannot enter into central bank without the owner of the gold permission, because the owner of the gold will send a letter to the central bank that he is going to bring the gold to central bank for export. So the buyer can go to the central bank together with the seller. The seller cannot walk into the central bank because there's so many security guards in central bank. You never know that buyer is a hold-upper. You never know he would hold up the central bank. It is very strict. Without the pass, and the seller has to show to the central bank his export license. Yes. That is the reason why the buyer failed. So that is the reason.
No, it makes sense.
Is that make sense, Anan?
It makes a lot. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Another problem, Anan. There was a buyer, I'm not going to mention his name because our conversation is live. There was a buyer. He went to Sierra Leone and his gold was withheld in custom airport in Ghana. Because the custom says, where is the ECOWAS receipt? So the seller is negligence. And the buyer come to me. And I told the buyer, I'm not here to teach you, but I feel sorry for you. And I told the buyer, if the gold has been kept by the custom, I think the custom might tamper your gold. The custom might put the fake gold from the real gold to the fake gold. And when the gold arrive in Dubai, when you open, it's no longer real gold. It could happen. Yes.
Yes, it could.
It could happen.
It does happen.
It does, yes.
It does happen.
It does. So, he knows me, and I told him, you knows me. Why just come now? Well, he wanted cheap price. He was offered cheap price. And I told him, you are also crook a little bit.
The problem with these buyers, they have a problem. They think they think Africa is like where they come from.
No, Africa is very strict.
The business in their places, they think Africa handles the business the same way. Africa is a different place.
Exactly.
Africa is a different place. It's a very complicated place.
It is complicated. Why? Because yeah, go ahead, Anan.
You need people to buy gold in Africa. You need people, all right? People that have a vast experience. For instance, like yourself, all right? Like yourself, all right? Buyers need to use people like you to buy gold.
Exactly.
All right?
Exactly.
I was telling these other buyers, say, if you want to buy gold F.O.B, in a safe way in Uganda, I can help you. But if you tell me that I should, because he needed gold in Tanzania, I told him no. I don't know Tanzania, so I would end up landing me into the hands of scammers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me about Uganda, yes, I'll help you. And I'll give you the procedure that I formulated myself to protect both buyers and sellers. So even buyers are also very funny. You know, buyers are busy, brokers are busy waiting with sellers' time.
Yeah.
In Uganda, I'll give you another very good example of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 months ago. This broker came,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's like, "No, I need gold." And then the evidence, he booked the refinery at Simba, the 30 kg. He managed. He had the money to book.
Mm-hmm.
He booked, and I forced my seller to bring the 30 kg.
Mm-hmm.
He brought the 30 kg without verifying the guy, because he thought since he has managed to book for refining, it means he's a real buyer.
Mm-hmm.
When the gold was brought to the refinery Simba, they refined it. And then the guy, when it was time for payment, the guy took the AC report, began calling his buyers. And then we're like, I thought you are the buyer.
See?
And then he called his buyers, and all his buyers told him they had depleted their money.
See?
They had depleted their funds, so they told him to wait.
Uh-huh.
At that moment, the seller had already spent money when withdrawing gold from the security company, hiring the security band to carry the gold from the security company to Simba. And now we had to take it back to Simba. In this case, you can see that the seller made a loss just because he had a broker pretending to be buyer. And one thing that these buyers don't realize, they think sellers keep gold in their offices when they're home. I was telling this other buyer, they say, can you keep money weighing 30 kgs or 10 kgs in your office? Surely that's attracting robbers, because the very same people that will attract the robbers are your workers, your employees. So begin communicating with robbers to say, yeah, we have gold here. That is why every seller, if you go into a seller's home, you're not find gold. You go into a seller's office, you're not find it. Only comes when there's a buyer and then they withdraw it. Sellers keep gold in a security company.
Correct.
Right? Because that's too risky to keep gold in your house. Or
even in the office, they would not keep the gold in the office. They wouldn't.
So these guys don't realize when you try to tell them that, okay, fine, like in Uganda right now, every seller wants buyers to show POS on the table inside the bank. Now I was telling this buyer to say, I explained to him and I said, let us go to the bank, take the seller, go to the bank with the seller. Inside the bank will give you a room.
Wouldn't work.
Throw the money to prove that the account is yours.
Wouldn't work at all.
Control the account. Inside the bank, you're secured. No one is going to rob you inside the bank. Once the seller sees, whatever the seller sees on the table, the seller will go and withdraw the gold equivalent to the quantity he has seen.
Correct.
Now this guy says, no. When withdrawing the money, they charge me 4%. I'm like, but then you're only concerned about your side. You are not concerned about the other side. Sellers also, when withdrawing the gold, they're spending money. When taking the gold from the security company to the refinery, they're also spending money. They don't want to ask you to pay for that money, because if they do so, you begin saying, no, they're trying to scam you through upfront payment.
There's no upfront payment, Anan.
They use their own money.
Anan, there's no upfront payment. You have to pay for it. Yeah.
Yes, but you have to prove that you're a buyer. You're a real buyer.
Correct.
And then this buyer says, you know, in Uganda, these brokers have reached an extent of showing other people's bank balances. You find that the proof of funds for one person is getting circulated. Like they try to check the bank balance and then they begin using it. They share it. They begin using it as a proof of funds. So in the end, you find that the seller falls in a trap. You say, yes, they really this person as the proof of funds. By the time the gold is there, you find that the owner of the money is denying to knowledge of the gold and everything.
Don't you know that I used to handle Ghana, Anan? Don't you know that 2011, 12, 13, I was in Ghana. I was being scammed in Ghana. Big time. I was being screwed by the seller and the buyer. So that's the reason why I wouldn't touch Ghana this time. Ghana sellers are notorious. Ghana is a beautiful country. I don't have any problem. But the seller, their mentality are crooked. They are crooked. They're devious. Okay, when it comes to money, the seller and buyer devious. I brought the buyer from Mexico in Ghana, 2014. And my seller is real. And the seller hired the van to bring the gold from the village to Accra. 50 kilos, 2014. And then the seller didn't tell me that he paid the security $10,000 for security to escort the 50 kilos. And then when the gold arrived in Accra, my seller deposited the gold to the security company waiting to bring it to ER Logistic on the time. And the 50 kilos brought to ER Logistic Refinery inside with Mexican buyer. His name is Eric Blasco and Mr. Marin. And they don't have the money to pay to us. During the time was $50 only per kilo. He couldn't afford to pay the $2,500 on 50 kilo to test the gold. So the seller was screaming at me. And I told my seller, okay, let's fix the issue. Take out the 5 kilos. Let us assay the gold. So the 5 kilos was assay. After the test of the gold, we returned to the hotel. The seller and the buyer doesn't want to talk to me. Yes. And before that, we have a meeting on the boardroom. I always taking the video and record. And this Eric Blasco was saying, I know your interest and concern. But Eric Blasco's concern is to screw me. So I said to Eric, you made the biggest mistake, double crossing with this woman. I will blog you. And I told my seller, I'm going to expose. Yes. So,
you have to be blacklisted.
Yes, I expose. Yeah, Urum Mining Company and the other seller. And I told them, you hired me and then you screwed me. So now they don't get the buyer. Ghana always asking for buyer. I said, no, I'm not interested in Ghana. I'm not. I have a bad experience in Ghana.
Oh,
That
was inhuman.
Yeah. So that is the reason why.
It was very bad.
That is the reason why this video that we have a conversation is a big lesson to everyone. There are crook seller, there are also crook buyer, vice versa.
Yeah.
Buyer asking CIF, he's crook. Yeah. That's the reason. They don't like my language, Anan. They don't like it.
No, that's very bad. How can they make you work just for nothing? You work and then they don't pay you?
Exactly. They don't. They just want to be my. They just want my free service. I already given free service online worth $1 million. When I travel, yes, I have to charge the buyer for my extra service. If he cannot afford, he doesn't have the money then. He doesn't have the money. Another guy, he sent me an email. He's a Nigerian. He said that he's going to travel to Mali. We are outsourcing gold that together with his partner. When I called him, I said, why are you going to travel to Mali? This is your first time. You're going to encounter disaster. And he said he's going to outsource. He needs my help. I said, I don't give help. I only assist the buyer when the buyer introduces himself properly. I told him that Mali has tons of gold. My seller sold 3 tons of gold 3 weeks ago. And in Sierra Leone, another Indian, he was being offered $35,000, and they put the gold in their backpack. When he arrived in Dubai, the gold is not gold; it's empty. All right. And there was another Sierra Leone seller who went to Dubai together with the buyer. Indian buyer promised that he's going to sign a contract that was 45 kilos. And then this Sierra Leone went to Dubai, excited, and he was been meeting in the airport. He was being distracted. He was given a drinks,
Yeah.
and when he fell asleep in his room, the 45 kilos disappear.
Yeah.
Disappear from the hotel room of the owner of the gold. How do I know? The owner of the gold called me because he saw me on my YouTube channel. And then he reported the Indian buyers has no business in Dubai. There is good Indian and bad Indian as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most buyers in Dubai are Indians. They are good buyers, but they're also crook Indian. Yeah, because of profit, because of the profit of when they sell it, they make money.
Yeah.
See? Another seller, I think 4 years ago, Mr. CDB, he was poisoned by the buyer in Dubai.
Yeah.
And he was being distracted. The buyer invited for dinner and not knowing that drinks has a poison. And Mr. CDB died from Conakry.
Yeah.
So this business, Anan, is very dangerous if you are not watching. So thank you that you saw my YouTube and you are on the group. There's a lot of crook seller and crook buyers as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the reason why I'm always explaining on my YouTube channel.
Yes, I'll try to do that. I'll try to do that. And also, that reminds me, there's someone who needs gold in Mali. I'm talking to one of the representatives.
Yeah.
So I think I'm trying to get the contact of the buyer so that I connect the buyer with you.
You create a group chat. What you have to do, and then before you connect me, ask the buyer how serious you are. That is the question you have to ask. How serious you are. Are you a buyer or just a broker? So you need to ask the person, because when you bring the buyer or buyer's agent to me, my question is very clear. How do you know your buyer? How he is able to pay? And if the buyer's agent says CIF, that buyer has no money. Because CIF stands for cost, insurance, and freight. That is normal. The buyer has to insure the gold. And that is normal. The buyer has to pay the shipping cost. But how he is able to pay the gold? So therefore, that buyer is a crook. So you have to screen the person properly. There's so many pretending to be a buyer. So you have to screen it properly before you bring it to Wilhelmina.
Yes. I will do that.
We have gold in Mali, tons of gold, but how he is able to pay?
All right. I'll try to find out. I'll try to find out. And when I see that there's something reasonable, I'll bring them to you.
Yeah, bring it to me.
Of course, I'm not talking directly to these people. There's this guy I'm talking to from the UK. He's the one who's telling me about them.
Just create a group chat, Anan, so that you can see how I interview the buyer. It's really very simple. Just like when you apply for a job, right? When you apply for a job, you have a resume, right?
All right.
You have to present yourself very properly. Buying gold, exactly the same. You have to introduce yourself who you are. Are you a buyer or are you a joker buyer?
All right.
So you understand now, Anan?
Yes, I understand.
Keep learning, because I'm telling you, this gold is the world asset. This is very good business for the gold trader watching my interview to you, and our conversation is live on my on my YouTube and on my Facebook. So this buyer, whoever watching my conversation or listening, this is for everyone. You will understand that this gold business is not for credit. This is not for credit.
Yes, yes.
This is F.O.B, bank to bank payment.
Nice.
So you understand now, Anan?
I understand you.
All right. Thank you very much, Anan, for our conversation.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, I just finished having a conversation with Anan. He's a buyer's agent, and he learned from my explanation. Okay, so those buyers, listening to my conversation with Anan agreed to mention his name on my conversation. This is for everyone. Now, Mr. Buyer, it is impossible to get the gold. You don't have to pay. You need to pay for it. It is impossible. If you're asking for SBLC, you have the facility of SBLC. Africa is cash business. So if you're looking for SBLC, good luck. You never know, you might find the seller that can find a financer. Because the seller cannot afford to give his gold without paying the gold. Why you are going to pay the gold? I'll give you an example. You are buying precious metal, right? You inspect and you like it, you pay for it. So when you pay for it, the seller will declare that to his government that he is going to export to you. So some of the money that you pay the gold is going to use that to pay the taxes. That is the reason why our selling price is tax included. You have to pay it. You have to pay in full, right? Then when your payment would be cleared, because bank to bank, you will receive the contract from us. You will see the banking details of the seller. My seller's correspondence bank is in New York. So you will not be deceived unless you deceive yourself. So when the payment will be cleared, that is the time the seller will process export documentation. So you're gonna say, oh, why should I pay? You don't need to worry. If you cannot pay, meaning to say you are not a buyer. And you're gonna say, I don't pay upfront. There is no upfront. You have to pay for it. You cannot take the gold out of the country if you don't pay the gold. Yeah. You ask for requirement. The requirement is in every video. There was a buyer that his gold is stuck in custom in Ghana. He's only a transit. So he was being manipulated by custom. He's waiting for bribe. I can see it. Because I was in Sierra Leone, stop over in Ghana, and then my luggage, the custom says, oh, you pick up your luggage outside. I said, no, I don't want to pick up my luggage. I'm only a transit. And I said to the lady, find me the custom officer. So the custom officer was a woman. And I was talking to this custom officer, why my luggage, why are we gonna claim our luggage that we are only transit? So the luggage has to be shipped to Dubai because I'm going to Dubai for Australia. I don't need to claim my luggage because the luggage intended for Australia. Right. And you know how much I give the grease in the hand of the officer? I give the dollar in the officer's hand. So if you don't know how to grease, I'll tell you, your things would be withheld, like gold, like diamond. Yeah, it's better to ship it. And do not leave Sierra Leone unless the gold leave the country bound to Dubai, and you need on the contract who is going to receive it. meaning to say the consignee. You only leave Sierra Leone when the gold arrive into your consignee address. I'm telling you now so that you will be aware. And if you don't like Wilhelmina's language, I'll tell you, you are a winner. Because brokers would not explain to you or even the seller. I only assist the buyer when I accompany the buyer. Mali, Sierra Leone, Conakry. I've been to 3 countries already several times. I've been to Mali, I've been to Conakry several times, I've been to Sierra Leone several times. I only travel to Sierra Leone, Conakry, and Mali when the buyer is real, when the buyer can afford to pay my extra services. My services is already free in front of you. Thanks, Anan, for our conversation. Because Anan was asking me if my seller will bring gold to Central Bank. I said, no, we don't. The buyer has to introduce himself. The buyer has to send a letter of interest, whether you buy gold in Sierra Leone or in Mali, exactly the same. And if you are dealing with middlemen, you are going to trap. Because middlemen has no idea. They come to Wilhelmina. They ask for me to teach them. I don't teach people. I am here to sell. We have the gold. You have the money. You pay for it. That is the reason why our procedure is on every video. Last night I have a conference and he saw me on the group on Diamond, Gold and Diamond TRD. This gentleman from Nigeria, he's a little bit of very rough. And he called me and I didn't hear his calling. And then he said, are you fake? And I told him, how do you know that I'm fake? Can you not see the video that you watch on the group? And he called me by video call. I opened my camera and I told him, now you're satisfied? So yes. What a bastard you are, I said to this guy. You are telling me that I'm fake and you did not listen to the video. You didn't look at that Mrs. Ford is the one who explained on the video. And he said to me, I have plenty of buyer. Well, I'm not interested. Find another seller. Right. I have to be tough because most of the joker broker, this gentleman from Nigeria, is also a joker. He doesn't know how to introduce himself. Hi, I told him, do I look like hi? Some of the buyer's agent, brother, do I look like brother? You already saw me on the video. Do I look like brother? Do I look like a man? This is Mrs. Ford you're talking. That is the reason why you guys are scared, because I'm very blunt. I'm very blunt. You know what my seller was saying? Thank God that that we hired you, Mrs. Ford. Thank God. The buyer lose money, the seller also lose gold. Vice versa. You know what I said to my seller when I was in the office? Do not believe on buyers. If the buyer cannot show his credibility, business registration, importation license, proof of fund, bank statement, to me, he's not a buyer. He's not. He is not a buyer. He's just a plain syndicate crook. I'm telling you. Because the crook is scared to show his credibility. And I think my video on April 17, there was a very good comment on my YouTube channel. And one gentleman said, have you seen the gold smuggled? I said, yes, from Zimbabwe. There's so many smugglers, either the seller or the buyer. And I said to my seller, do not involve on smuggling. Because if the government found out, your license will be revoked. This is what my seller was saying. Wilhelmina, we don't smuggle our gold. We cannot afford to lose our license. We have community to feed. We have workers to feed. Thank God, Wilhelmina, that you are with us. Mr. Buyer, I'm also with you. I'm also with you. I will take you to Mali if you want tons of gold. I will take you to Sierra Leone if you are buying gold and diamond. I will take you to Conakry. But when I fly with you, Mr. Buyer, I do charge my services. I already given you free service. Take it or leave it. You learn from it. If you don't, you're a loser. If you pay attention to my conversation with Anan, I'll tell you, you are a winner. There's a saying, I mentioned that on my previous video. Knowledge is wealth. Right? I recall what Philip from Germany, he called me, he's a professor in Conakry University. He said, Wilhelmina, you are so nice. I admire you. Your information is not $1,000,000, it's worth $1,billion. And I said to Philip, why you said $1,billion? Wilhelmina, gold is $1,000,000,000 worth. And I said to Philip, yeah, you're right. I only say to Philip, I just say worth $1,000,000, but actually this gold business worth $1,billion. You know what Philip would say? Don't believe on buyers cannot afford to pay. Exactly. I have a transaction successful. I can vouch you. And if one buyer says, show me the proof. Why should I show you the proof? We will open the books in the office for you. You will see who is our customer. I meet the Russian guy. Every month he traveled to Conakry. He pick up 300 kilos. He's a Russian guy. He bring it to Russia and sell it to Russian gold buyer. He's a gold trader. His name is, I would not mention his name. He's a very young Russian. And I even interviewed this Russian with his interpreter. I have the video, but I would not release the video. This is only for my file. When I was in the office, there's so many buyers waiting in the lobby. Yeah? And when I arrive in the office, I don't wait on the lobby. I just go upstairs because I'm part of the company. I'm part of the seller. The seller hired me as an extension. Which one you like, Mr. Buyer? 8%, you travel alone. 13%, I'm with you. You get 13%. Which one you like? Tax included. So, Mr. Buyer, if you cannot afford to pay my extra service, then you travel 8%. And if there is an issue, Wilhelmina would be far from you. Why? Seller is very hard to deal with, even though he's my seller. My seller send the buyer out in the office, an Indian guy. He keep on bargain. You know what my seller says? Keep your money. We're not interested. Go somewhere else. What happened? The Indian didn't get the gold. Because he bargained. His term is not acceptable. It says on the contract, he violated the contract. Another Singaporean, he stayed in Kalum Hotel with me 2 years ago. And he said he is a buyer. Okay. How long you been in Conakry? 2 months. And because I have a license. Okay. And I said to this guy, he stayed in the Kalum Hotel, staying the same hotel. And every time we have breakfast, he kept on annoying me. And he said, you know, I'm a buyer. I said, yeah, you're a buyer, but how come you cannot find the gold? Why not go to Medina? I said, no, this is my price. That is the reason. You go to Medina, 54 during the time. And I even do the research. From Kalum Hotel, there is a shop in the same street. And my personal driver took me to the shop because he has the gold and the buyer wants the gold. He was stuck in Conakry. I just want to help him. The owner of the shop, he would not sell cheap price. $55,000. And the seller would not, owner of the shop, he would not bargain it. He wouldn't. And you guys asking for cheap price, CIF, cost, insurance, and freight? To me, you're a syndicate. Yeah, thanks that Anan was been explained by Wilhelmina. I explained to him thoroughly that there is no way the gold will brought to the central bank. We will bring the gold to central bank in Conakry after you pay. Yes, you never know, you back out. Once the gold will be at the central bank, the gold cannot be taken out of the building. So that is the reason why, Mr. Buyer, if you're watching me, you are in Conakry, you would never get the gold unless you are transparent. In Sierra Leone as well, the same. There's so many buyers. There was an Indonesian buyer. He has a license. He said he has a license to carry. Okay. And he went to the village. He buy only the dust gold. And when he smelted, under undervalued and is not good. That's only for 14 carats. So meaning to say it's a low grade. There is a low grade and high grade. But even though it's 14 carats, you can still resell it. But he is looking for high quality. He's looking for 22 plus. He's looking for cheap price, this Indonesian buyer. He keep on chatting me, Wilhelmina, when are you coming to Sierra Leone? And I told him, when I come, I would not meet you. I only come with the buyer with me. And I will bring the buyer to the office of my seller. We have diamond. The diamond in Conakry just sold. You look at, go on my platform on YouTube and Facebook. I put sold. And you don't believe Wilhelmina? I don't believe you either. Because you did not open your camera. I will believe you if you show me who you are. I will believe you if you showed me your business registration. Just a moment. I'll show you. This is the buyer that I'm going to accompany him. Yeah? This is the buyer from Dubai. He convinced me that he's a buyer. Right. And this is my seller. Yeah? This is my seller. The contract is being prepared. So, if you cannot identify yourself that you're a buyer, to me, you're not. To me, I'm not believing you if you're not transparent. This is the buyer that he sent me his registration. Yeah. Dubai. I don't want to show it to you guys. But this is the buyer's vital information and my seller's contract. So he's booked to see me on May. And another buyer wanting 40 tons of gold in Mali. I said to the buyer, I can see the buyer on the group. He's looking, comparing prices. I told him, relax, compare whether you're satisfied with the seller that you have been dealing with. When you're ready, you come back. Because I'm not going to pressure the buyer. If you fail, that's the time they come back to me. Just like this buyer. He went to Sierra Leone. He knows me. And the gold was stuck in custom in Dubai, in Conakry. And I told him, just bribe the custom. Yeah. And the custom said, your paperwork is okay. But you need one more. ECOWAS certificate. Yeah, there would be. The seller didn't apply for the ECOWAS certificate. So, Mr. Buyer, if you're watching this video, you don't need to run around. You don't need. You watch my video and then you go somewhere else. You go to Mali, you go to Conakry, you go to Sierra Leone. What happened? Failure. No such seller will deal with you without invitation. And even myself, I would not entertain you unless I'm satisfied. There's so many buyers already on the ground. I wouldn't entertain. One buyer from Switzerland, he opened an office in Conakry, and he showed me his license, and I told him, I doubt if I can help you, but you need to send me a letter of interest. Don't tell my seller that you have a license, and I will come to take you to the office. And he failed. He returned to Switzerland. And then I even introduced him to my personal driver. I use this taxi if my seller cannot provide me the driver, because they only provide me from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, because they have to go home. The driver has to go home. So I meet the taxi driver in Nome Hotel when I used to stay in Nome Hotel 2009 and 1919. I traveled to Conakry 6 times already. So I meet this gentleman, this young guy. He always park in Nome Hotel. So he become my personal driver. He's a very honest personal driver. And he took me to Medina. He took me to this shop that he has gold as well. But the owner of the shop, I think it's 50 meters or 25 meters from Kalum Hotel. Because last year I stayed in Kalum. And the gold is very expensive. Even the owner of the gold from Sigiri, he come to see me in the hotel last year. I have the video, but I will not release it. He's selling $56,000 per kilo. And you are lucky to deal with Wilhelmina, because Wilhelmina will negotiate on your behalf. As long as you convince, as long you sign a 12 months contract. Yes? As long you show me your financial capacity to pay. And as long you can afford to pay my services. Instead of getting 8%, I might renegotiate the price for you less 13%, okay, out of the world market price. Now I'm going to go to the world. Today is April 18. Okay, just bear with me. Now the price of gold today, okay, the price of gold today is 64,437.56 on the world market. Now today is April 18, and our selling price on 22 carats is $59,000, which is 8% based on the world market. 21 carat is $56,000. 18 carats is $48,000. 12 carats is $32,000 per kilo. 10 carat is $26,000 per kilo. There are so many offer cheap price, but you will not get the gold out of the country. The seller who offer you cheap price, he wouldn't care for you. Mr. Bayo, he wouldn't care. The seller will run away from you if you give them money. To us, we don't ask you upfront. You come to the office. Talk to the CEO with me, and I will introduce you to the CEO. Inspect the gold that you make a reservation. You bring your gold tester if you want. Then when you like it, what would be the next? Because the gold cannot leave the building without paying. Then we bring it to Central Bank if you want Conakry. Then in Mali, you test the gold at DNGM. You buy your own metal box. In Mali, you buy a metal box. My head office will guide you to buy a metal box. The Mali seller shipped the gold 3 tons 3 weeks ago. His existing customer, and you are a new customer. We don't know you, I don't know you, so therefore you will be a new customer. So you only travel with Wilhelmina to guide you. Next order, you can coordinate with Wilhelmina, okay? Then I will inform the office that this buyer who signed a contract with us, please allocate 20 kilos. Now, if I'll take you to Mali, Conakry, do not go behind my back because you will fail because I will monitor you. Did the buyer secure second shipment? Yes. So you don't need to pay me for second trip. It's up for you. But if there is an issue, you solve it. You already know my seller. And don't be arrogant because your arrogant would not win. I'm very arrogant to my seller if there is an issue. Right. So please, Mr. Buyer, my conversation with Anan is a really good moral lesson to everyone. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant good evening to you guys and good morning. I already mentioned the price. I will put again the price here on my YouTube channel.